Now, if the opening game weeks haven't quite gone your way and your team is starting to look a little bit of a mess and you're thinking about hitting that wildcard button, don't worry, I've got you covered with the ultimate guide in today's video. Now, before we dive into today's video, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be making sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and it is only possible with your guys' help. Now, before we obviously go and dive into my wildcard team. Now, my wildcard is going to be active for this week. Obviously, we've had a few disappointing weeks. I feel sometimes we just have to cut our losses and hit that wildcard button and just, live with, the poor decisions we did make and move forward. But before we dive into that, let's look at some data from 11-5, which potentially could help make a few potential decisions coming up with our wildcard. So this is the percentage chances of clean sheets. As we can see, Manchester City and Arsenal both looking exceptionally good over the next few game weeks, despite them obviously featuring against each other next game week. So probably that one is going to be a little bit of a problem with our defender picks. However, beyond that, 6, 7, 8 and 9 all look very, very succulent for a clean sheet as well. Liverpool for the next three, definitely a team I would be considering maybe looking to go and get on the wild card as well. The likes of Andy Robertson. And of course, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, both excellent defensive picks, really, really good numbers as well for them. Aston Villa also have some pretty decent clean sheet percentage odds for the next few weeks, so those could be a team that could be another one you maybe want to consider as well. Everton, despite the terrible start to the season they have had, they're still on here for some decent projected clean sheet numbers. Now, I probably would not be recommending going and picking up any of their players for me personally, as I do feel it is a little bit trepid, to be honest. Their form and their defensive numbers until Branthwaite comes back have been abysmal. Right, let's move on to look at some projected goal data as well for the next few weeks. As we can see, again, it is kind of the same three teams at the top of the pyramid that will be leading the way for the next few weeks, where a lot of their goals will be coming from. That is Manchester City, that is Liverpool, and that is Arsenal, especially after that match day 6 period for both City and Arsenal. As we can see as well, that match day 9 period looking exceptionally good for Manchester City, so offers another opportunity to use that triple captainship as well on Erling Haaland that game week. Match day 5, as you can see, the best projected goals are for Liverpool. So for me, having Mohamed Salah on this wildcard is going to be pretty much a must, just because he will be the best captain this week with Arsenal and City facing off against each other. After that, though, Saka starts to enter that conversation for match day 6 and match day 7 as well, with really, really good projected data there. However, Haaland also looking very strong with some really good projected goal numbers as well. Villa have a great run, and Watkins might be potentially an option for those decent projected goals to go and eat them up as well. Spurs, the likes of Son and Solanke as well, definitely could be a few names that you could consider maybe looking at for future game weeks as well, with decent projected goal numbers over there. That was the projected data. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below, and let's move on to this wildcard team for Game Week 5. Now let's dive into my team and talk through the picks. Of course, we're going to start off with our goalkeepers. We've gone for Sells and we've gone for Vladimir. In terms of 4 millions, maybe Fabianski might be a potential better option. However, there just aren't any 4 million playing goalkeepers, so we have gone for Vladimir. I think Fabianski could also be a decent pickup in this area. I've kind of not thought about this one too much so far. Then we've got Sells as well. Now, interestingly, Nottingham Forest XG conceded at the start of this season has been amazing. It's continuing from what they did last season as well, where their XG conceded was unbelievable, genuinely fantastic. They've also got some great fixtures coming up. As we saw, they weren't one of the top teams for projected clean sheets over the next few weeks. However, I think with their strong defensive performances, I think that 11-5 model will start to adjust and start to have them as one of the better teams to be targeting for clean sheets, because it's a great run coming up. I know they've got Brighton this week, but I don't kind of look into goalkeepers too much. If you've been around the channel, I think they're a little bit of a dud position. They either usually score a 2 or a 6. Sometimes, obviously, they go and get the bigger scores. However, it's very, very unpredictable and sometimes can be against top sides, like what Sells did this week against Liverpool, coming away with a clean sheet. Most people would have benched him. However, for me, goalkeepers, they're goalkeepers. Just stick with them. Stick with one goalkeeper for the course of the season, especially for a team that puts up good defensive numbers, and you will be fine. Right, let's head into the back line. We're going to start first off with Gabriel after his bullet header today. Arsenal's fixtures in 5 is difficult. 6, 7 and 8 though, really, really tasty with Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth. We saw with the 11-5 clean sheet data as well, they are projected to get some great numbers over that period, so that feels like a little bit of a no-brainer. Then we've got Pedporo in there next as well. Spurs were quite high up again on that projected clean sheet data. They've got a great fixture run coming up, and he has had the most shots amongst all defenders. He just does play like an attacker most game weeks as well. This one could become Andy Robertson. We do have the money in the bank to make that move and maybe move on to Pedro Porro around game week 8, I believe, when, you know, Spurs' good fixtures do continue. So that could be an option that I maybe want to interest myself with. However, I do feel with like European football coming around the corner, we might start to see some more rotation with Robertson Tsimikas in that left back position. Next up is going to be Ezri Konsa from Aston Villa. Now, some people might be saying, why didn't you go for Luca Digne? I do feel he potentially could become a rotation risk with Maddison as well. I think Maddison will start the Champions League game, and I think going forward, those two will be sharing minutes throughout the course of this season. I rather would save myself the headache. So going with Konsa, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. And again, as we saw with the projected goal numbers for clean sheet, really, really good data going forward. Greaves is going to be our start, well, not one of our starting players, but he's going to be one of our bench players for 4 million. Ipswich have got a great set of fixtures. I would feel very comfortable playing him in many of these games that he does have coming up. Southampton away, maybe he does start this week, but I can't really see where else I would maybe bench a player for him. But still, pretty decent option to go for is old Greaves. Great fixtures, a threat from set pieces as well. 4 million, you cannot complain with that one. Then we've got Kilman. Now, you might be thinking, well, they've got Chelsea. West Ham haven't been great defensively. They didn't appear high up on the 11-5 clean sheet data. Correct. However, what he does do is rotate extremely nicely with Ezri Konsa. So when he has difficult fixtures, for example, in matchday 7 where they face Manchester United, he's got Ipswich at home. Wonderful stuff. And then when Villa have got Tottenham away in game week 10, he's got Nottingham Forest away. So he kind of just balances each other out. There's definitely some interesting fixtures here to be targeting as well with Max Kilman and with West Ham as well. And he's just one of those players that is going to play. They signed him for big bucks. I was tempted with Emerson. However, I feel he could be prone to a little bit of rotation. His kind of scores so far this season have been a little bit disappointing. So he's not really lighting the world light, so I feel Kilman's probably the better one to go for. Right, let's move on into the midfield. We're going to have Saka. Now, I've said this, it's going to be a difficult game. However, he proved today that he can obviously perform in those bigger matches, coming out with a fantastic cross to find the head of Gabriel. He's yet to blank this season. I've owned him since game week 1. I was very, very bullish, and I'm continuing to keep that theme up. I think he's a very, very good player. Now, Champions League football will start to impact him, and obviously the mystery injuries he will start to pick up. But Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth, we saw with the 11-5 projected goal numbers as well, they are great and represent a potential captaincy option with Leicester at home and Southampton at home in 6 and 7, and I want to be able to jump on that, and that is why I've gone with Saka in this wildcard. Next up is going to be Rodgers. Now, obviously, a lot of people on Twitter are kind of angry at FPL content creators for rating him and putting him in their teams. However, I feel people need to temper their expectations. He's a 5.1 million player who's getting 90 minutes, is looking extremely good, and he's creating lots of opportunities. He's probably just a little bit unfortunate not to have come away with an attacking return. I feel if he gets a couple in the next few games, a lot of people will be like, yep, fair enough, he is 5.1 million. We were probably raving about him a little bit too much. However, for that price point, I think he's just a great budget enabler to have in your sides. Next up is going to be Brian and Mbeumo. The fixtures coming up for Brentford are scintillating after Spurs. West Ham, Wolves, United, Ipswich, Fulham and Bournemouth as the next set of fixtures. On penalties, he seems like a real no-brainer for me in my personal opinion, so I'm very, very happy to have him. Then finishing up, it is going to be Mohamed Salah. I think for the next 2 weeks could be a great captaincy option, even in match day 7 as well. Could run Erling Haaland very, very close for his money in terms of captaincy. So it seems to me, why would you not have a player that arguably, again, could be running for captaincy? I think that's what we've gone with this team, is having the best captains each and every single game week and having those players that could deliver for our captaincy, because that is one of the major swings. And I feel having Saka, Salah and Haaland, all of whom could hold the armband very comfortably and could come away with very, very satisfying scores, makes complete sense to me. As we saw with the 11-5 projected data as well, Salah and Liverpool are projected to do really, really well over the next few weeks. So it does bode quite well to have Mohamed Salah in there. Let's finish up. Let's head to our free forwards. We do have Winks on the bench, but 4.5. Nothing really to talk about with that one. Let's head to the bench. We're going to start off first with Jamie Vardy. Now, he scored 2 goals, and a lot of people might be like, yep, he's old. And I did do a little bit of research into him for the Transfers Targets video. And I did say I'm a little bit skeptical because of his age, because of obviously injury issues, and because the fact he's only had 3 shots and managed to score 2 goals. But he just is a natural poacher, a natural finisher. And there's some great fixtures coming up for Leicester. Everton in game week 5, Arsenal in 6, not great. But then it's Bournemouth, Southampton, Nottingham Forest and Ipswich as a run. Now, if it doesn't work out, obviously we've got the likes of Vissa, we've got João Pedro that we could very easily switch to if that run doesn't quite work out and we don't want to obviously continue with the Jamie Vardy train. It is for me a combination of whether or not I went for maybe a Bowen and I think it was a Bowen and a Solanke, or we went for a Vardy and a Saka. And I feel it was Saka's ability to obviously pick up big scores and his captaincy potential that I did go for this route. However, that is another route that I potentially could be tempted with as well. Next up is going to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We're really throwing it back a few years here with DCL and Vardy up front. However, the fixtures for Everton are immense and they won't continue to keep bottling 2-0 leads every single week. It's just not possible. He's been their standout player so far this season, coming away with 3 attacking returns over the opening 4 game weeks. They've got Leicester, they've got Palace who've looked shaky, Newcastle defensively as well have looked weak, Ipswich, Fulham, Southampton, West Ham. It just is a long run that just does continue. Penalty taker as well, so I'm very, very happy to have him. Could be a fantastic enabler at that 5.9 million price tag that he's at. Then finishing up, first time he's going to be in my team this season, it is going to be Erling Haaland. Now, I did get the decision wrong to not go without him, and I do feel for game week 7 and beyond, probably up until 11, he does represent one of the best captaincy options in the game, and I feel that has been one of the main areas that has let me and my side down, is I've not had the best captaincy option for the past few weeks. You know, Salah has delivered in some areas, however, this week was one of those weeks where I did say Haaland is the better captain, and I would rather have Haaland than Salah this week. Obviously, it did pay off that way, and Haaland has delivered. Now, does that mean his returns are going to continue to deliver? Probably, but probably not to the same level we've seen so far from him. However, he is an absolute machine. I think that having the summer off has made a big impact on his fitness. He seems to be able just to hold himself. Alvarez leaving as well means that he is realistically the only forward that they do have within the club. They must be confident in his injuries, and they must be confident that he's going to be able to see out large portions of the season playing full 90 minutes as well. So we're back in it. We're with the Haaland team. This hopefully is the wild card that gets my team back on track. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in, as we will try to answer as many as we possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in Game Week 5.